Okay, traders, welcome back to the channel. Here I have a requested video from people from different social media platforms is to look at XAUUSD, right? Otherwise known as gold. So I'm going to be going over an outlook of gold from the higher time frames. I personally don't look at gold very much. I don't trade it, but I know a lot of people do. It's very popular in the Forex and commodities trading space. So I'm going to try my best to accommodate and see what I can do in terms of an outlook, right? So this is the monthly time frame over here on gold, right? So I've started on the monthly just to show you the overall projection of the market, right? So as you can see, there isn't really much to analyze over here other than if we go into deep structure over here, right? What we saw is we saw the old all-time high over here being breached. So we've seen a new structure over here that's been made over here. We've seen a clear break of structure, and now we just see price heading in one simple direction. So higher time frame paint a very similar, very simple picture, right? That is just bullish, and that theme presents itself across all the time frames. So if I go down to the daily time frame, I guess I can show how I'm marking out my structure and my POIs and stuff, right? So because we are longer term bullish, right? We have been for a long time. The way that I was currently looking at my structure over here on the daily time frame is that we had price shift over here in this region, right? Giving us a break of structure over here. Then what we saw is a confirmed break of structure over here, right? Now the reason why this is a confirmed break of structure is, right, this is the last low that made a new high, right? So look at how we saw a break of structure over here. So this represents our break of structure over here. And this is the lowest point before the break of structure. Just a quick point to understand. Now, as we head over to the right, we begin to see how I'm marked out my structure over here. We had a minor retracement over here before a break. We had another sharper retracement before a break of structure over here. Now, since then, what's happened is we went through a range, we ranged up, we ranged down, and now we've made all-time highs on gold, right? So just a few notes on the price action here on your screen in front of you, a few educational tips and tricks. What we had over here, if you look carefully, is that we had a very large pool of liquidity over here, right? These were equal lows in the market. I believe we had about one, two, three, four, five, six touches, right? So we had six lows, right, or equal lows in the market that was swept and price came in, right? We saw a fair value gap over here. So this is not accidental, people. This is just how the markets work, right? What we saw is we saw a fair value gap over here that I'm going to mark out in blue. So price came into this fair value gap zone over here. So we saw price mitigate this zone, sweep all of these equal lows over here, come into the zone. Notice how the market respects this POI quite well. I mean, we only really saw the bodies come in, right? So we saw price come in, mitigate this level with the wicks of the bodies, right? Wicks of the candle, sorry, before heading up and breaking structure, ultimately making the new all-time highs, right? So now we see price hovering in this region. So again, the daily time frame shows no real signs of slowing down, right? Now, if we go down to one more time frame to see how I'm analyzing my 4-hour structure, what we see over here is we see price delivering quite clear structure actually. So if I take you back to the daily POI, the daily POI is an interesting zone, right? So if I show you how I'm looking at my structure here on gold, what we saw is we saw price come in, we saw bearish structure, which I haven't actually marked out. So we've seen bearish structure come in, giving us a low, a high, and a low. We did see price break structure to the upside. Price came back into the zone, swept some liquidity, equal lows over here, before ultimately breaking higher again, right? Something to note over here is price, especially on the higher time frame POIs, will not go on the first mitigation. We'll often see price create liquidity in the form of equal lows, typically, before sweeping this liquidity and heading higher, right? So the 4-hour time frame shifted structure over here. So again, if I mark that out with an arrow, we see price shifting structure over here. And since then, we've just been pretty much bullish, right? So we see price giving us a minor pullback here before breaker structure. And we saw price coming in again, giving us a correction on the 4-hour, coming into a pretty deep discount, right? Filling in the fair value gaps over here before heading higher. And now we've had exactly the same thing over here, right? So price has come in, given us quite a shallow retracement. We've barely come into the discount from here, and we've just headed higher, right? So now how am I looking at gold over here? Good question. So we had a previous all-time high to the left of your screen over here. So this is an all-time high over here in yellow. Now the question is, when we break a high, what do we expect? Well, what can we anticipate when we break a high, right? So Again, we see it in textbooks all the time, trading textbooks, right? When we break a high like this, so once we've broken a high, so once we've seen price break structure to the upside, just like this, what we'll often see is we'll see somewhat of a correction before heading higher. Now, we don't know the depth of the correction because as you can see, the last correction was not very big. We barely came into the discount. We just touched into the discount. We didn't really come into the discount properly before heading higher again, right? So what's my immediate outlooks on gold? Well, I personally wouldn't be looking to take any longer term sells from this position because the higher time frames are so bullish at the moment and gold is just ripping through making all-time highs. But from an intraday perspective, if I had to break it down, what I can see over here is we saw the last low over here produce this high over here, right? So if I project the Fibonacci tool from the most recent swing low up to the most recent swing high, which we're currently dealing with, right? We understand that in the discount, so again, this line over here represents the equilibrium. So this is the EQ or the equilibrium. Anything below the equilibrium is essentially a valid POI. So we have a fair value gap over here, right? That price could look to target in the future. So we see a fair value gap over here, a 4-hour fair value gap, which price could come down into at some point and mitigate before heading higher, right? Price could do that, okay? This is a potential. Now, is it likely? Probably not, because gold, gold is pretty much bullish and it has been for years. So I'm not saying it's a likely scenario for price to come all the way down to here before heading higher. Just a couple of things to bring to mind is that we have fair value gaps over here. We have an inefficiency over here. Inefficiencies I often mark out in blue. So we have an inefficiency over here, an inefficiency, an area which price could look to rebalance before heading higher, right? So this is my overall outlooks on gold and how I'm looking at gold. So if I just scroll out again on price, what we have over here is we have overall bullish structure on the H4. The H4 is painting a bullish picture, giving us retracements and pullbacks and retracements and pullbacks. Could we see a minor correction over here before heading higher? It's a possibility, but again, don't bank on it. Don't bank on any kind of correction because of how bullish this market is, right? If you like this video, give it a like and thumbs up. I'm going to be making a lot more outlooks, as I know people like outlooks. I'm going to come with case studies and outlooks, how I'm looking at the markets. And if you're somebody who wants premium access as to how I look at crypto, commodities, and other forex pairs, and you want free one-to-one sessions to really break down these concepts as to how we trade at Liquid FX, so ICT Simplified, feel free to contact me in the comments or on Twitter, on Instagram, and I'll be more than happy to get back to each and every one of you.